That was May 26th. May 29th, she claims another woman 3 days later filed HR complaints against Justin. Magically, now this woman is filing an HR complaint when Blake said she couldn't. So she claims the woman files an HR complaint against Justin. And then in Blake's complaints, even her amended complaint, she kept this blatant lie in. She says this woman filed a complaint against Justin and doesn't want to come forward. You can see why she doesn't want to come forward. But that Justin acknowledged her issues in writing and he said adjustments would be made. What do you know? In Justin's timeline where he provides proof of everything that took place, he listed a text message in that was addressed to Blake. Hello, I just wanted to take a brief second to introduce myself before I dive into this video. If you're not interested, you can always skip ahead to the next chapter where I delve into the many lies told by Blake's lawyers, which are outrageous. So I made a text post on my channel the other day in an attempt to personalize my channel and formally introduce myself since I hadn't really done that yet. And oh my gosh, I was completely overwhelmed by the incredibly kind responses and warmth and support and encouragement I received on that post. I cannot thank you all enough for taking the time to chat with me and share your thoughts. I'm always grateful if just one person watches my videos, if just one person comments, if just one person shows interest in anything I'm doing. So imagine my surprise when so many people showed up to say hi. I honestly didn't expect that many people to respond because I had abandoned this channel long ago and I thought no one really paid much attention to it. And I'm aware that a ton of you are new subscribers and I already love you all. So thank you so much for 23,000 subscribers. Believe it or not, I've been making content online for about 7 years now, since 2018 to be exact, which garnered millions of views. Much of that was done on another YouTube account. And then I actually had an old blog and several old Instagram accounts that are now all defunct. I got my start talking about One Direction, doing journalistic deep dives on Zayn and Harry and their contentious relationship that many people aren't aware of. Also doing breakdowns of their music because I'm an English major, so I love analyzing literature and poetry and things like that. And I also did videos on stories surrounding the band and all the controversies that led to that band breaking up. I also dabbled in a few deep dive videos of people who were connected to the band in some way, and those videos did surprisingly well and actually helped me to realize I love doing journalistic deep dives on a vast array of topics, and that sometimes results in mini documentary series, which I have a ball with. I cannot express to you how much I love content creation. It was never just about one direction for me. It was always about the information, the logical arguments, the archiving. It was about the journalistic effort, fact-finding, truth-seeking, and of course, storytelling, because I also happen to be a fledgling writer. I was actually a writer long before I began making content. I've been writing since I was very young. So due to the nature of the content I was making, I guess I never really felt a true sense of ownership over it, and I never felt comfortable sharing who I really was, especially because apart from the love I got so much hate for sharing controversial opinions about particular celebrities and subjects, problematic celebrities. But to speak truthfully, there is no topic too strange or taboo for me to delve into, and I'm usually willing to say the things that most people are thinking but are not willing to say. I will literally talk to you about anything. I can go on and on about celebrity gossip, religion, space, aliens, psychology, conspiracies, true crime, politics, writing, anything. As for this channel, I started back in late 2020 while also running the main channel that I had, but then I abandoned this channel in 2022 because I could no longer split my time between both channels. However, I returned to this channel about 6 months ago because it has always granted me a sense of creative freedom, unlike the old channel where I had to mostly stick to 1D, meaning over here I could comfortably speak about topics that had nothing to do with One Direction or my undying love for Harry Styles. And I have been slowly and steadily trying to bring this channel back to life. I was overwhelmed by the reception of my new Menendez Brothers videos, but also my Liam Payne video, and of course, all of the videos about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. So I figured I should really try to invest some time and dedication here and continue to reach out to a new audience because you guys said you enjoyed the content. And I know I have a long way to go with growing an an audience on this channel and gaining their trust and uploading consistently, but I'm so excited to put in the work and stumble and fail and hopefully succeed occasionally. This channel will mainly focus on celebrity deep dives, disturbing stories, and some true crime because those things really intrigue me, but I'm always open to exploring new formats or new topics. So I just wanted to take a more personal approach to this account going forward and say thank you if you decided to join me, and especially if you're still listening. I feel a strong urge on this channel to do things differently. I want to be more myself on this account, own my work, and hopefully someday feel comfortable enough to occasionally hop on camera. I'm still building up the nerve to do that, but for now I will start with saying hello, my name is Harper. I won't be using a pseudonym or fake name on this account like I did on my last account, and it's incredibly freeing to be honest in that regard. It's also very nice to meet all of you, and thank you so much for your support, and I cannot wait to bring you tons more content and videos. So I debated doing this video back and forth because I didn't want my videos to become redundant, and a lot of the details that have to be rehashed can sound redundant, but they're important to rehash because the more you look at the case, the more the truth emerges in the facts that are available, which makes this a slam dunk case for Justin and his team, as long as the judge isn't corrupt in any way. So it was disappointing hearing that the judge was probably leaning towards dismissing the New York Times defamation lawsuit, not because of the merits in Justin's arguments, but because there is a fair reporting protection in New York, which this might fall under if they're able to basically pull a sleight of hand and basically pawn the whole thing off on Blake and say that they were simply reporting the CRD complaint. And the judge basically alluded to in his decision to stay discovery, meaning he ruled against Justin and in favor of the New York Times to stay discovery based upon the notion that the New York Times argument for dismissal was strong. However, Justin hasn't responded yet, so we don't know how strong their argument is yet. Anyway, the fair reporting might apply if it is the case that the New York Times can prove their reporting was only based on the CRD complaint. However, a lot of people have poked holes in their argument, and they are valid counter arguments. I watched it on the YouTube channel of the two lawyers. They're really great. They've been breaking down this case. I just can't think of their names right now, but I'll put the video here. So they broke it down really well. They commended the New York Times lawyers on how well the motion for dismissal was drafted. However, they also gave counter arguments against their points. And I personally feel like Justin's team would be able to prove that the New York Times was not reporting solely based on the CRD complaint because, first of all, they published this article apparently within 24 hours of the CRD complaint being filed. So we need to know whether it matters where they received the information from when they were drafting their article, or whether it matters when the article was published. But in my opinion, logically, if the law is based on what they're reporting on, then it should be what they drafted the material based off of. So they couldn't possibly have based it off of a filed complaint because the timeline is too short. Plus, we can prove there was a window of time during which they had it even earlier within that 24 hours because they reached out to Justin's team for response, and they gave him about 14 hours to respond. So it's beyond clear the New York Times had the CRD complaint long before it was filed, and I believe in discovery Justin can prove this easily. However, the judge stayed discovery until he ruled on the motion to dismiss, which is absurd because if Justin can prove they had the CRD complaint early, he should be able to continue his case against the New York Times because it should not fall under the fair reporting protections. The New York Times stated themselves that they reviewed thousands of documents, and so there's no way anybody could review thousands of documents and then write an article, draft the article, have it edited, and then reach out to other people for comment, wait for their response, and then publish an article in a major publication like the New York Times with a 24-hour turnaround is simply impossible. So that also needs to be taken into consideration. There are so many lies, but the slimiest thing about the New York Times is that they're openly admitting, as I said in one of my earliest videos, that they are not impartial. They are very partial, they're extremely biased, and they're happy to be so. And they're using a legal loophole to get away with defaming a man. They are admitting to doing this. They specifically said in their arguments that they are under no obligation to present both sides of the story, yet they're pretending to be that is fair and balanced in its reporting. And I said in one of my earlier videos, they are laughably politically partisan. So it's just a joke to pretend that mainstream media is objective anymore. So not only do they admit that they don't have to be fair to the other side and that they don't have to present both sides of the argument, they just have to basically stick to the reporting in the CRD complaint. But the other problem with that is that they presented a lot of the information Blake gave them as fact. And so there was no fact finding, there was no journalism that took place, yet they are presenting it to the public as though journalism took place, as though they investigated this. And investigating this to a reasonable person would of course involve speaking to the other side, not giving them an impossible deadline overnight to respond, but actually hearing them and hearing their counter arguments before you present this to the public as though it's fair and balanced reporting. So regardless of how the New York Times lawsuit ends up, the fact is they defamed Justin without having all the facts. They were not concerned with the facts. They were not concerned with due process. They were concerned with narrative pushing. And regardless of how the judge rules on this motion to dismiss, we know for a fact the New York Times are full of shit. They're liars. They're biased. They are hacks. And they should not be trusted by anyone anymore. And the only way they can get out of this defamation lawsuit by Justin is literally by using a legal loophole to abuse the system. It's just horrifying. This is the state of journalism in this country. Anyway, I debated making this video back and forth because, again, the information I felt might sound redundant, but that is until I stumbled on a major lie that I haven't heard anybody as of yet talk about. So I just want to talk about this one first, and then I'm going to go into all of the rest of the lies told by Blake and her legal team, mostly her legal team, because I think it's critical to pay attention to how much Blake's legal team is lying. They are bad faith actors. They are not conveying the facts, they are twisting the facts to support her narrative. And it's very scary how much they are abusing the system and even abusing mainstream publications to vilify this man and bully this man. And I just need to see them all fall. I need to see them crushed. And I just pray the judge makes the right decision in all instances. Bear with me here because this new lie I noticed has to be explained in a sequence of events for it to make sense. But you can just jump ahead to the timestamp displayed here on the screen if you can't wait, because I totally understand. I'm not trying to bury the lead here any further. The biggest lie that caught my attention that I haven't noticed anybody mention yet, maybe somebody else has, I just haven't seen it personally. If you notice, Blake kept saying she had other people on set who were uncomfortable. So this is debunked in many ways. Most likely, the other person she's speaking of is Jenny Slate, and the Hollywood Reporter actually exposed that Jenny Slate's complaint was involving Jamie Heath, not Justin Baldoni. However, Blake framed it as though Jenny's complaint, or this unnameable person's complaint, was also involving Justin, and she used such deception in doing so. So let's just clear that now. Jenny Slate's alleged complaint, because also keep in mind, Blake is lying about there being any HR complaints, period, because Sony, Wayfarer Studios have both confirmed that no HR complaints were filed, especially against Justin, on the set of It Ends With Us. So Blake constantly saying that there are other HR complaints filed is a flat out lie that has been debunked in many ways now, especially by Sony directly. But the other problem is, I pointed out in my last video that Blake verbally expressed complaints of some kind to Sony, a Sony producer, over the phone. She claims Sony told her that they could not file formal HR complaints for her, that she would have to resort to Wayfarer. However, Wayfarer said no, Sony did tell them about the complaints Blake made, and that she specifically said she did not want to file anything formal and that she wanted them to just be more mindful. That makes sense that she said it that way, because the three things she complained about were completely distorted and blown out of proportion. The first one being Justin using the word sexy when speaking to her. We've already proven Blake uses the word sexy a lot. She used it a lot on this set, which Justin has text message proof of and video proof of her doing it, speaking about her character's wardrobe. Justin's comment about her being sexy was about her wardrobe, and he has this moment on camera, and they said that it was said said in a tone that is not salacious in the least, and that it was the director giving instructions to his subordinate, basically. I even have clips I've found since then of Blake using the word sexy very loosely.
And the same thing with alcohol, when I hear about, you know, how this is distilled in Portland and how the reason this one is winning all the taste tests actually is because gin has a high juniper content, which is why a lot of people don't like gin, but this has no juniper, and like all of that story I just love because I like storytelling. It's what I do for a living. And then, you know, martinis are so sexy. I mean, that's why they're in this movie. Shut the fuck up! It's just straight gin. It's not, there's nothing fancy to a martini, but the glass and the way you swirl it and you dump it and you twist the lemon, and it's just like, oh, it's so sexy.
Gun, mouth.
It's still sexy, it's still fun, there's still action.
Sexy.
So this corroborates Justin's claim that Blake used the word sexy a ton on set. So this blows a hole in her complaint about him using the word sexy on set because she is a complete hypocrite. There is no validity to this first complaint. The second complaint was her complaining that Jamie Heath showed her pornography, which is a complete lie and distortion because it was a birthing video and he only showed her the first second of it, and he stopped because she said she would watch it later. Also, his wife was covered. There was a baby present. Her legs were not spread like Blake claims. And also, the only reason he showed this to her was for a simulated birthing scene they were filming. So again, another completely unreasonable claim. And the kicker here is that Blake knew her issues were unreasonable, which is why she said she didn't want to file anything formal because she would sound ridiculous. She would sound as ridiculous as she does in her multiple lawsuits. And the third complaint was about the first AD. Not only did she get the first AD fired, she also got the second AD fired, who was also a female. So Blake's complaints on set led to 2 female ADs being fired. So the things she was complaining about to Sony were not sexual in nature, like Justin said in his suit. They were just her basically voicing grievances. And now she's retroactively in her lawsuit trying to paint this as her making HR complaints. These are not HR complaints. This is a whiny, bratty actress voicing grievances, and then Justin and his team doing all they can to accommodate her by apologizing profusely for the things she unreasonably called offenses, like him using the word sexy or them trying to show her a birthing video as a reference for a scene they were filming. But then they also fired 2 females to accommodate her. So it's totally absurd that she's now retroactively trying to pretend these were HR complaints, which they were not. She's claiming that Justin and his team did not investigate. How could they possibly investigate HR complaints that did not formally exist? Also, what was there to investigate if they both apologized for the behavior, meaning they acknowledged it and they apologized? So this happened on May 26th. This is when Blake voiced her verbal complaints. And I already gave my theory that she was doing this because on May 16th, Justin went into her trailer and relayed criticism to her from the public and from Sony about the way she jacked up her wardrobe. And she didn't like that. And he was also going into that meeting, which he said beforehand in a text to Jamie, he said he was terrified to speak to her about this because he was terrified of saying the wrong thing. She was that much of a nightmare. In that meeting, he wanted to go in there and basically reclaim his role as the director and basically take back control of her wardrobe. She was not happy about this. From that moment on, literally, that was May 16th, literally the same exact day Jamie Heath told us she started fabricating these fake violations of sexual harassment. Later that very day, on May 16th, she requested another meeting. Jamie Heath went to her trailer with Justin, with Sony producers, ready to have the meeting. He knocks, she lets him in. She's having makeup removed, and she might have been breastfeeding or pumping or whatever, and she tells him not to look at her. He says, fine, but you need to come on and have this meeting. You asked for it. We're ready to do it now, so come on. And so in that brief moment that he was speaking to her, not longer than 5 minutes, they said, she created a violation that same exact day. This bullshit about him looking into her eyes. So even Blake is telling on herself because you're saying he made eye contact with you. How is that sexual harassment? I don't give a fuck what you're doing. If you agreed to meet with this man, you agreed to speak to this man, him making eye contact with you is not sexual harassment, you fucking racist bitch. That same day, she started fabricating violations. She also lied about the nature of that meeting and tried to say that meeting was to address inappropriate behavior on set. That turned out to be a lie. The meeting was about the wardrobe because earlier that day, it was the same day Justin had the meeting with her in the trailer about the wardrobe. This is literally listed on their rap sheet of all the things they did for the day. Multiple lies, even in that instance. She lied and she created her first fake violation of sexual harassment with Jamie Heath making eye contact with her. So a few days later, May 22nd, she created the issue with the birthing video, and this was clearly before she retroactively fabricated sexual harassment complaints after production ended, because her issues with this scene were never discussed with Justin, and she literally praised him specifically at the end of the day after filming this birthing scene. She praised him, said he was terrific, and said she was proud of their work in a text message. On May 23rd, she went crazy with violations. Basically, she ruined the dance scene fishing for violations of sexual harassment, which is why you see her blowing the dance scene out of proportion, making up lies because she thought there was no audio. So she was going to use this scene to make her point in court because she believed it was going to be a muted video. But Justin came through with the audio because he was mic'd the whole time because he's an intelligent man, and it blew a hole in her lies about that scene. May 24th is when she set up this little bullshit text to a friend that we didn't even see proof of, that, oh, she was going through so much on set the day before on May 23rd. May 26th is the day she voices the grievances to the Sony rep, but she still has nothing. So she even tells them, I don't want to file anything formal. This is just for them to be more mindful. Right. Be more mindful by not using a word that you use every day on set. Be more mindful by not daring to show you a video for visual reference for a scene they wanted to film, a birthing video. Be more mindful by firing ADs because you don't like them. So anyway, that was May 26th. May 29th, she claims another woman 3 days later filed HR complaints against Justin. Magically, now this woman is filing a HR complaint when Blake said she couldn't. So she claims the woman files an HR complaint against Justin. And then in Blake's complaints, even her amended complaint, she kept this blatant lie in. She says this woman filed a complaint against Justin and doesn't want to come forward. You can see why she doesn't want to come forward. But that Justin acknowledged her issues in writing, and he said adjustments would be made. What do you know? In Justin's timeline, where he provides proof of everything that took place, he listed a text message in that was addressed to Blake. And in that text message, he said, I acknowledge your grievances, the ones they discussed in the meeting. And he said adjustments will be made. And it was addressed to Blake, not anyone else. So, like we've been suspecting, Blake probably has a personality disorder, but she's also trying to project herself into multiple different people to make it seem like so many people on set had issues with this man. When in reality, the Hollywood Reporter revealed, and this is why Blake was so pissed off with that article, by the way, because it blew a hole in her vague little narrative that multiple people were complaining about Justin on set. So they came out and they did the article where they basically say there might have been some sort of like cultural differences because of Justin's faith, which is a valid point, by the way. And so, because if it was any other culture, people would take that into consideration. Like if he was Muslim, for instance, they would take the cultural differences into consideration. But because it's Baha'i, they think they can just vilify him and dismiss his religion. Anyway, she was pissed about that article because in that article, they exposed from sources that Jenny Slate was the other person to make a complaint 3 days after Blake. Doesn't that reek of collusion, by the way? And that she was clearly probably coerced by Blake into making verbal complaints with Sony. So this is a joke. This is collusion. They were setting these men up. When you look at Jenny Slate's complaint, it's even more absurd than Blake's. She is complaining, according to the Hollywood Reporter, that Jamie Heath talked about the sanctity of motherhood with her while offering to pay her $15,000 to move apartments so that she wouldn't be out of $15,000 because she was so unhappy with the place she was living. She found any way she could possibly vilify this exchange with this man because of Blake's coaching fishing. And that's what I've been trying to say in my videos. Blake was fishing for violations she could trump up as sexual harassment. And it got so ludicrous that they vilified this man for offering her $15,000 and daring to talk about the sanctity of motherhood, which is absurd. Blake was pissed with the Hollywood Reporter for this article because they exposed the true nature of Jenny Slate's complaint, and it was a nothing burger. It blew a hole in her little vague allusions to other women with complaints about Justin. But now we have proof positive that she's lying about these vague allusions even, because she tried to make it seem like Justin acknowledged in writing another woman's complaint. This is not true. This text message from Justin was addressed to Blake after their meeting, after she voiced her grievances, because he wanted to reestablish good faith and let her know she was being heard. So her taking that and twisting it into another woman who complained about him is so sick and vile and evil, especially because she thought she would never be found out. She thought she could continue to allude to these women and then fall back on the excuse that, oh, they're too afraid for their lives to come forward, when really they just don't exist. And Blake is taking her pathetic complaints and pretending they were voiced by multiple women. And also, is disturbing because she's trying to make the claim in her lawsuit that her complaints on set were not investigated, when I pointed out in my last video, she trumped up her allegations over time, and the more salacious, more serious ones, like about him biting her lip and about him, all the details that she added in the dance scene, she retroactively weaponized their entire relationship. So all the things he confided in her under the understanding of friendship and confidence, she took that and retroactively vilified him for it long after filming in her CRD complaint. So he never even heard those accusations. So the point being is that she has been lying about her allegations all along, and she's trying to say, oh, they didn't investigate her complaints, when in actuality, she never made formal HR complaints, and they did address her grievances. They fired 2 women to accommodate her. They apologized for the sexy comment and for the birthing video, and they had a meeting with her over it. What else were they supposed to do?